So I wanted to talk about religious trauma um, today because everybody is a large number of people are responding to the Republican Bible post, which is very. Uh, what is the definition of religious trauma? Uh, Abuse, emotionally, physically, or SA uh, in nature um, that's caused or motivated by religion. Um, and so y- religious trauma is a really messy ball of wax. Um, and it is never a positive experience. Um, so I have a list for this. If you give me just a second, I'll dig it up. Um, because you'll need an exemplification for um, religious trauma and institutional abuse is a Ellen, yeah, I always post the lives, you know, feel free to watch them later. Um, so for example, the Canadian residential schools abuse cases that went on well into 96, where over 150,000 indigenous children were forcibly removed from families and subjected to cultural genocide at the hands of the church. Um, of course, the Catholic Church sexual abuse scandal from the 50s to the current time, um, the thing um, that Pope Benedict is most known for attempting to cover up, um, the Magdalene Laundries issue, where 10,000 women and girls, were imprisoned for being fallen women. Um, and then the Australian Catholic Church scandals, um, that have happened over uh, the years, and then the Mount Cashel orphanage scandal that happened in the. Diane, there was a huge um, church-related scandal in Canada where Indigenous children were taken from their Indigenous families and indoctrinated at the religious level, so the Christian religious level, and that caused a whole bunch of um, religious trauma as a result. Um, I don't. I have a real soft spot for Indigenous people, and it's very sad to me that happens. Um, and then here even recently, the Southern Baptist Convention sexual abuse crisis that's happened over the last um, that's happened over the last 10 years. Um, so yeah, religious trauma was really not is really not good. Um, as a whole. Um, so but the larger focus from today's article was the Republican Bible that tells them in the book of Trump, chapter 3, verse 16, that says, grape as many women as is humanly possible. And why Christians wrap around Trump amidst the fact that he's clearly a person who has been guilty of sexual assault and who has been guilty of adultery and who has been guilty of every other thing. How Christians reconcile that is unconscionable. And so, to understand that, we have to understand why. the dogma of Christianity asserts that um, that oh, give me a second. Um, Asserts that adultery and SA and raping and all of those things are wrong, um, because clearly the text teaches that this is the case. Um, Early in the text, the lo tenafa, um, kosek, which is literal Hebrew for "you shall not commit adultery," um, and the root of that neah um, carries visceral weight. The English translations just they sort of breeze over it, and they dilute it down to a way that um, uh, you know English translations don't carry the same weight that a Hebrew translation. That's one of those things. I wish people who were Christian faithful people would learn Hebrew and then read the original Hebrew text and understood how viscerally strong and how corrective that uh, the Jewish people were, so the Old Testament, um, against such things. It's the same way with the New Testament. Like, it would be really nice if affirmed Christians learned Greek um, and were able to ingest a Greek interlinear of the New Testament. They would have a vastly different understanding of the way things work. Um, so the Deuteronomic code expands on the earlier Exodus passage, um, you know, which asserts um, if man is found lying with a woman married to a husband, then both of them shall die. The man that layeth with the woman and the woman, you shall put away the evil from Israel. Clearly, if you committed adultery under Deuteronomic code, it got you killed. Um, and it got you killed in a way that was unforgivable. That's not some gentle suggestion. And again, English translations, especially the KJV, kind of glaze over that and sort of ignore it, or downplay it from the English translation perspective. Um, so, with the New Testament intensification of this issue, um, oh, Techo, I didn't realize. Um, I I'm not shocked by that. However, indigenous persons have always been severely problematic. So with the New Testament and the focus on a new covenant within the New Testament, um, Jesus didn't soften those standards either. Um, he was actually more demanding about them. Um, Early in Matthew's text, he declares that you have heard that it is what was said, you shall not commit adultery. But I say unto you, yada, 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 every man that looketh on another woman in lust has committed adultery. That language is very specific. Um, and I don't, so here's Julia. Yay, Julia came. Um, and so um, the Greek iteration, moicheu, here carries the same condemning weight as, oh, there she is. I'll wait for you to sit down.
Hiya.
So, um,
Hang on one sec, my internet is being weird. Let me
Okay.
just look here. Oh,
I always tell people
connect my Wi-Fi.
if your internet goes weird, just go audio only. It
I
usually
just connected. I just connected the
okay, good.
whatever it is, the
Um,
Wi-Fi. The Wi-Fi.
so we're talking about religious trauma.
Religious trauma.
Oh
Oh
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
um,
Thanks.
right, because Republicans wrap themselves around Trump, who is clearly guilty of many different iteratives of religious trauma on other people. Um, and how his followers reconcile his clearly non-biblical behaviors is beyond me.
Yeah, I think because you just wrote about that this morning, right?
Yeah,
I just
yeah.
read it this
Well,
morning
yeah,
in the.
and I had like 25 Substack DMs from people that were telling me that I was the devil and I didn't know I don't know what I'm talking about. And that article is a piece of shit. And so,
Right, of course you did.
you know,
Yeah,
because I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about.
they wouldn't know the Antichrist if you bit them in the ass,
I mean,
but we do.
what is the thing about the Antichrist?
Beg your pardon?
Here's the thing about the Antichrist.
Okay,
Do you know who the Antichrist is?
enlighten me.
John of Patmos is
Yeah.
most scholars believe is the writer of the three,
Revelation.
yeah, of Revelation and the three John books.
Ah, yes, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that wasn't like how people think that first, second, and third John were written by John the Baptist confuses me because John the Baptist was martyred
Yeah,
in
yeah.
in the Gospel of John. Which, by the way, that's the other thing that annoys me is that Christians take John the Baptist and John the disciple and make them the same person, and they weren't.
No, he's the disciple that Jesus loved. Yes,
Yeah.
the Marys. He gave
Yes,
Mary.
John the disciple of which I loved the most.
Yes.
If that's not
Woman,
gay,
here
by
is
the
your
way,
son, and son, here is your mother.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. If that's not gay, I don't know what it is.
And then there's Mary Magdalene. So there you go.
Well, yeah, that's true, but Jesus walked around in the desert with 12 guys and he didn't have a woman.
Uh-huh.
Um, so anyway, the Greek moicheu carries the common condemning language as much as the Hebrew neav, but Jesus extends the prohibition beyond the physical act to mental intention. So
Right?
for the purposes of lusting, and so
Yeah,
that's the
yeah.
quote that says, "If you look on a woman
Yes.
with lust, you've committed adultery."
In your heart. Yeah, I know. I love that.
Yeah. Yes. So from Jesus' ministry, that further attenuates that the Old Testament law about committing adultery is bad, and if you do it, you should be stoned to death.
It's worse. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So here's the thing: there's another layer that's attached to this, and the other layer is this: um, uh, Deuteronomic law suggests oglig tanav yeshat, which says you shall not steal. The Hebrew infinitive ganav encompasses not just physical theft, but any form of deception, acquisition of, or taking of what rightfully belongs to another,
Right.
including a woman's virginity.
Oh, or anything she doesn't give you by consent.
Yes, exactly.
Anything.
Um,
Mentally,
Levitican law,
emotionally.
Levitican law takes this even a step further and says, um, uh, Kashak Kasak es net ganam shakar hufet kafaks, which says you shall not steal or deal falsely or lie to one another.
Right.
So if you lie to somebody by committing adultery, there's an
Oh,
additional layer of you should be stoned to death.
that's a 2 for 1.
Now, a step even further than that, that biblically should fuck you in the ass if you commit adultery or rape, is Deuteronomical law, which describes the rape of a married woman.
Yeah.
But if a man finds a betrothed young woman in the countryside and,
Yes.
and the man forces her and lies with her, that man shall be stoned to death. That man shall die.
Yeah.
Um, and that carries the Hebrew infinitive chazak, which means seize forcibly, or to overpower, or to use strength to dominate, which is graping. I don't care what anyone says. Dominating a woman, that's grape in its rawest forms. Um, and so the text makes clear that the woman bears no guilt because she was overpowered
Yes.
and graped by a man.
Consent. There was no consent, and
Yes.
couldn't fight back.
Yeah, non-consensual consent is grape in the Bible. I don't care what anyone tells you.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, it
and so the
depends who's
text
doing
says,
the
"But
saying.
you shall do nothing to the young woman. There is in the young woman no sin deserving of death,
Yeah.
that she is to experience this." And so, when matching the historical interpretation of this, um, we have to sort of examine uh, the perspectives that happened after the biblical text was written. So, in the early church, John Chrysostom, who was in the third and fourth century, he wrote extensively on the damage that adultery inflicts on the individual as much as the community fabric. In his homilies to Matthew, he declared that adultery dissolves nature in its purest form. And
Sorry,
then,
can you repeat that? It echoed.
oh, okay, John Chrysostom, who
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
a church leader in the third and fourth century,
Yeah.
um, he wrote extensively about the fact that adultery was bad and why. And his assertion
Right.
was that adultery continues to destroy, literally dissolve nature, um,
Ah.
in it in its entirety. Yeah. Hey, Miranda, if you can come on, you probably want to be involved in this discussion. Just wave your hand and tell me, and I'll bring you on because I know you're more knowledgeable about this shit than I am. Um, so Augustine, in the same century span, so 354,
Yeah.
in his De Aldertennis Conjugas Adulterous Marriages book, argues that adultery represents a fundamental breach of the religious dogma behind don't fuck around. For Augustine, marital infidelity became a metaphor for humanity's faithfulness towards God. So if you committed adultery,
Huh.
you were incapable of being faithful to God.
Well, right. And you made the commitment at the marriage ceremony. I don't know if that held back then, but it does now. You make your promise before God. So
Right. Yeah.
God
Let no
first,
man tear
then your
asunder what
spouse.
God has
Yeah.
brought together.
And I like what you said about the social contract and the trust of the community. And I
Yes.
think that was from the Hebrew, that you're fracturing the trust of the
Yes.
community and the
Yes,
fabric
exactly.
thereof. Yeah.
Yeah. The community experiences
Yeah.
divisiveness
Mhm.
when adultery is rampant throughout. And here's the thing: in the days of the early church, they were all watching this shit happening with the Romans because the Romans ran around and did a lot of shit.
Yes, they did. And they were the boss. And they were pagans. So there you are, except for the ones who got converted, like the
Right? Yeah.
Syrian.
Yeah.
Mm.
I mean, look, one word: Caligula. um,
Caligula then, Caligula now.
yeah, yeah. Caligula then, Caligula now. Right? Exactly.
Blech.
Um, so, so later, Thomas Aquinas wrote in Summa Theologica that adultery under sins against justice.
Okay.
And it is this way because it violates exclusive sexual rights that are entirely inherent to the nature of marriage. Aquinas,
Yeah, it's a little legalistic, don't you think? I mean, I
okay,
get what he's saying, but the rights part is like
right,
that's fairly patriarchal in my
right.
mind, but I
So
get what he's saying.
In Aquinas's case, he argues that adultery is intrinsicae malum, so intrinsically evil. Oh
Hi.
no, see, Miranda knows more about this shit than I do.
Wow, cool. And you've got
Miranda's
your
more,
Well,
is certainly more well educated than I am.
I don't know about that. I just spent more time in the church getting traumatized than you.
I remember you talking about that. Yeah. Boy, aren't they
Um,
great? Just great feeding grounds for that shit.
Yeah.
so
Here, let us judge you. Ooh, you're
yeah, right,
bad.
exactly.
We're good.
So after Aquinas, Luther made an issue of adultery. Now, let's bear in mind that Protestant denominations didn't happen until Luther wrote the Theses.
Right.
But Luther understood that adultery, if anything, was his understanding of adultery was even more severe than how Catholics interpreted that language.
Yeah, how about that, eh? The Calvinists. Yay.
Yeah, Luther
But
even wrote, God wills that marriage be holy and pure, and violators of that Gott der will das die heilig Unitaritie. Luther's German language carries that intensity, and Luther believed that if you adulterated, you should be killed. John
yes.
Calvin went even a step further, with
Of course
with
he did.
with the Institutes of Christian Religion describing adultery as a sin that pollutes and corrupts the entire body. Totus corpus polluit et corem et.
Does he talk about the spiritual?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Because
Yeah,
mind, body, spirit.
Calvin emphasizes contamination and corruption. It contaminates your soul to commit adultery.
Huh. Not wrong.
And then, just like with Luther, and just like with Aquinas, and just like Chrysostom,
Yeah.
it affects the community that grows around it.
Right?
So,
Yeah.
how the fuck do we get to the contemporary argument? There's an inerrancy problem in Christianity as a whole. Modern evangelical Christianity built its identity on biblical inerrancy. The belief that Scripture contains no errors whatsoever.
Uh-huh.
The
And it
Bible,
never contradicts itself. We just
no,
pretend that doesn't.
Oh,
that
no.
never
Yeah.
Oh,
happened.
yes, it does.
Um,
It does.
Here's the thing: if the Bible is inerrant and completely authoritative, then prohibitions against adultery, theft, and sexual assault cannot be dismissed. Yet Christians continue to do it.
Right?
Why? Walk in the Cyrus exception.
Right?
So
Yeah.
the Cyrus exception is how Christians validate people like Trump and validate other people who do things that they want and need to happen, and they use the Cyrus exception. Which, by the way, I have to ask you, Miranda, when you read the Cyrus exception, did you know about that?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So they used the Cyrus exception and then um, a similar thinking for King David.
Right. Yeah, right.
Yeah. So,
So, for those that don't know, the Cyrus exception is basically that's the argument that God can use morally flawed people to accomplish divine purposes, and that makes it okay.
Maybe the first, but certainly not the second. It is not okay.
Well, no. But the Cyrus exception says
Yeah.
God can use people divinely that are flawed to achieve whatever. How many women did Solomon fuck around with? Right. How many women did David fuck around with? Okay.
Yeah.
And
um,
whose husband did he kill in order to do so? Yes,
yeah,
quite.
Right.
exactly.
Yeah.
So in this case, the Cyrus
Good to be
exception.
king.
Yeah, in this case, the Cyrus exception um, references the Iranian Persian at the time, King Cyrus, to restore Jewish exiles. The king of Persia was not a good person. He was like, you know, Genghis Khan, like bad. But Christians assert in Isaiah that God's use of Cyrus was okay because the end result of what he did from the body of the Israelites made up for all the really evil bad shit that he did.
Yep. The ends justify the means.
Yes,
Right.
exactly.
Yeah. And
Um,
it's politically expedient to do so.
well, here's a larger problem. Cyrus wasn't even, um,
No.
a covenant member of Jewish law. He didn't even recognize Jewish law.
Yeah. At least David was.
you know, um, biblical standards for covenant community leaders um, demand moral integrity, but for God to use an external individual to achieve whatever result, it doesn't matter what that person does. The desired result was there, and it made it okay. Um, as
While we're talking about Cyrus, I want to add that um, so they used the Cyrus exception on behalf of Trump and a bunch of other Republican politicians. Um, but those people claim to be part of the covenant.
Claim.
So they shouldn't qualify for that. God's using the bad person for good thinking anyway. They claim to be the good people.
Even though they're blatantly not. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
I'm pretty sure, Miranda, that Kenneth Copeland would disagree with you.
They
um,
lied. So they're covenant breakers anyway.
Yes.
Is that what you're saying,
Yeah.
Miranda?
well,
Yeah.
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 Yeah. They lied. So there you go. You're out. You've broken the covenant many
Yeah.
times because of the adultery and all the other bad things too.
Yeah.
You're disqualified.
Yeah, they want the 10 Commandments on all the buildings, but they violate all of them.
All of the time.
Yeah. All of them. By the way,
Esoteric, you're right.
well, yeah, but I'm going to correct esoteric on this. There is no biblical antichrist. I hate that reference, and here's why.
Ah.
When John of Patmos wrote the three books of John, he called anybody who wasn't a Christian the Antichrist. So there's not like a specific
Yeah.
Antichrist. And the only reason that people believe there's a specific Antichrist was because of post biblical texts that were written, especially those horrible books written by Thomas LaHaye that nobody in their right mind should ever read.
And the film, The Omen.
Oh my God, there was a no, the LaHaye novels. The LaHaye novels were the Left Behind books or whatever. Oh my God. I got through like half of those and said, nope, fuck it, I'm not doing this.
I couldn't read them. They're so poorly written. It's just hurt my eyes. Right?
Wait,
Yeah, they didn't even try.
Miranda, you were a person of the cloth at one time. Did you read those horrible books?
I did read those horrible books, but they sucked.
Right? Ugh.
Um,
And so at that point in time, I bought into the rapture narrative and those kinds of things because that's what I had been taught.
Right.
Um, so that got me through the first book.
Right.
Then it just goes way, way off the rails. Even according to that theology, goes way off the rails. And the writing is terrible,
Saying a good deal.
but I read them because I was totally bought into the cult at that point.
Yeah. I here was the thing. My scholarship approach uh, happened entirely because I was curious about it, and I cared about the linguistics behind um, the text. I really didn't care about the dogma. But here was the thing. I mean, you know, as a druid, uh, I had to understand who was coming after me and why. You know, unfortunately, um, at that time in my life, I viewed education as the enemy of my enemy as my friend, and that almost never works. I don't care what anyone tells
Yeah.
me. And so,
Yeah, it
um,
only works temporarily.
yeah, get you this far, rest of the way, nope, you're fucked.
Yeah.
So, how do we reconcile the personal conduct question? So, uh, biblical understanding views adultery not as an isolated moral failure. It is a fundamental character flaw. If you commit adultery, biblically, that's it. There's a switch and you can't turn it off.
Hmm.
You can't. I mean, the Proverbs text says, whoever commits adultery with a woman lacks understanding. He who does so destroys his own soul, dematerializes his whole soul, wounds and dishonor he will get, and his reproach will not be wiped away. So you become tainted by committing adultery. Um, so thus the Hebrew infinitive chesar et lev, which literally means lacking heart. And literally, Hebrews believe that if you committed adultery, your heart literally disappeared out of your chest and you never got it back.
Ooh,
Um,
never.
yeah, never. I mean,
Even by
gone.
repentance.
Yeah.
Oh.
No, here's the thing. Um, from a Judaic perspective, the concept of repentance does not exist at near the same level that it occurs in the Christian tradition.
Yeah, you can't just say a prayer and, all right, now I move on. God forgave me because I said so.
Right.
There's all
But
this
what about
atonement
true?
involved.
Uh,
What about what? Julia, what about what?
oh, I was going to say about true repentance, like not just lip service and indulgences, which is the New Testament anyway.
From a
Wow.
from the Judaic tradition,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, I have to say that no. Well, yes, you commit sins if those sins don't get you killed. So
Oh.
yeah, remember
Oh.
Deuteronomic and Levitican law. A lot of the things that you would do would get you killed. If they didn't get you killed, you still had to be faithful in the eyes of God. And remember, too, from a Judaic perspective, those were God's chosen people. There's very little. I need to write a text about this. Um, what Judaic conversion in the Old Testament is not a thing. It
Oh,
never
you either
was.
were or you weren't.
Yeah, you were or you weren't. That's it.
Yeah. Okay. Which is the fundamental difference between Christian, what Jesus had to say, and the original. It's like, okay, you got this far. Now we need to take it. There's only two commandments, and the second one wraps all the other nine into it,
Yes.
and other things, and inclusivity to Gentiles and anybody else. Okay.
And so that's the thing that creates the testimony problem. So evangelical Christians believe in personal testimony. Miranda, did you give your testimony?
Oh, so many times.
What was your personal testimony?
Oh, I don't want to repeat that script
Right, yeah.
because, and it is such a script too.
Well, here's the thing.
But that's a
No, don't repeat it. I was not being serious when I said that.
yeah.
But the concept of maratria in the New Testament refers to um, the witness one's life bears through the truth of the gospel, whatever. Paul then later, and I argue this point, people assert that Paul wrote First and Second Timothy. I don't think he did. I really don't. I think that
Doesn't line up linguistically.
no, it doesn't. I mean, it literally does not. But people suggest that Paul's instruction in First Timothy um, that church leaders must have a good testimony among those who are outside. It recognizes moral credibility is essential for effective leadership. How can Christian communities maintain moral authority on issues like abortion, same-sex marriage, and family values while supporting leaders who violate those rules? Because they did.
Right?
I mean, Ted Haggard, led a church of 300,000 people, and then on the weekends met his gay masseur, gave him blowjobs, and did crystal meth. How is that morally relative to his ability to lead 300,000 people to God? You can't. Fuck off.
How nice for him.
So, where does all of this lead? It led me right to the grab them by the pussy because they let you. Because we all know Trump said this. I mean, he can say he didn't say it, but he really did say it. I start kissing them. It's just like a magnet. Just kiss. I don't even wait. And when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything. Grab them by the pussy. You can do anything you want. That description it aligns precisely within the biblical understanding of chazak. Using position and power to force sexual contact without consent.
Yes.
And so, Judaically, they would stone Trump to death.
Oh, there's a lovely thought.
Yeah. If Trump lived in the time of Moses and he said shit like that, he would be stoned. He would put to death. No question.
Where is my time machine when I need it?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, but instead we have, all of the evangelical church making excuse for him, and big leaders like Franklin Graham being like, "Oh, he's a baby Christian, so he doesn't understand how to behave better."
Yeah, sorry, no. But I know they eat it up.
Like, why does he get to be a baby Christian at 79 and other people are expected to behave themselves?
And are judged for far less.
Cyrus exception.
Racist assholes at the same
time.
time.
I was going to say Cyrus exception. That's my new response to people that say that. Here, read about the Cyrus exception. Then you'll understand why. So the more damaging has been the silence and active defense, as Miranda suggests, of people that defend Trump in this capacity. The selective moral outrage represents hypocrisy. Jesus called it that.
You froze.
Yes. Oh, am I still here, Miranda?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Did you say hypocrisy-Christians?
Hypocrisis.
Yeah.
Hypocrisis is the actual Greek, but that basically it's the Greek word for hypocrisy.
Yeah. Oh, right.
And
Jesus said that was the thing to look out for was hypocrisy.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
Religious leaders who condemn sexual immorality when it was politically advantageous while excusing it, are guilty of that very, religiously guilty of that very thing. And I don't think Jesus ever assumed that a person that did that should be stoned to death, but they should be punished. Um, so
And there's the repentance bit that is
yeah,
not in the Old Testament, but it is in the New, because
yeah,
you have to work your way out of it, and with a broken and contrite heart.
yeah. Here's my thing about that. I love to quote this person. My favorite comedian is Lewis Black. I love Lewis Black. Have you ever seen the Emotions Pixar movie, Inside Out?
No,
He plays their anger emotion, and he does it flawlessly beautiful. But
Lewis Black.
Yeah.
Okay, let
yeah,
me
Lewis
write that
Black.
down.
But the way he puts it, he was like, "You Christians, you have to stop reading the Old Testament." Um, and and
Right,
and here's why: it's not your fucking book.
right.
Your little kid wrote this book. Read that. Stop reading our book, asshole. You're not going to get it right. And so the
Mm.
this is what causes the scandal of particularity.
Yeah, it's hard for me to say too.
I know Christians have always grappled with it. The idea that universal truth must be embodied in specific flawed human beings and institutions. That Christians believe that. Modern Christians actually believe that. That um, universal truth must be embodied in specific flawed human beings. But there's a difference between accepting human frailty and actively celebrating, defending the behavior that contradicts biblical scripture. You can't do that. Um, the doctrine
Right,
of common grace suggests that God can work through flawed individuals, but that doesn't mean that believers should support or defend sinful behavior. They shouldn't.
right.
If you're following the text, don't fucking do it.
However politically expedient it is.
Well, it happens in Romans, like Paul writes about it. He says, "Shall we continue in sin that grace may abound?" The answer is no. No, you should not. Um,
He, he also says, any of you who lead one of these baby Christians, like a real baby Christian, someone who
yes,
is just new to it, this is not a good thing. You are
no,
doubly damned because
yes,
you've
Yeah.
led them astray. Even
yes,
if you're
exactly.
setting a bad example for someone who's new to it, oh, you're in big trouble, because you can't do that.
I
You
mean,
have to have be a good example. You can't lead someone else astray because of your error.
the the prophets of the time did not hold David nor Solomon in very high regard, especially after King David started fucking around with Bathsheba.
After murdering her husband.
Right,
Yeah.
because she was even darker skinned than he was, and
Ah,
that wasn't, you know,
oh,
um, I mean, Nathan confronted David over that issue. Um, Elijah challenged Ahab's injustice of Naboth, despite Ahab's political achievements. So, members of the faith have confronted people that are guilty of the very things. Why nobody will do that? Why people don't do that now? I don't understand. And so, I mean, if you want to talk
They're
about,
they're intoxicated with their power.
yeah,
right.
because
And they don't want to lose it.
yeah, the cognitive dissonance crisis that causes is caused by the fact that they have that power, they don't want to cede it, and so they compartmentalize everything that they don't need to fucking touch or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, and so, um, you know, that's how we ended up with prosperity gospel shit. You know, because the Reverend Creflo Dollar That's his legal name, by the way. I live in Georgia. I can tell you this. The Reverend Creflo Dollar is his legal name.
Ugh.
And his church is the largest built church in the state. And like Kenneth Copeland, he has 10 Bentleys, 5 airplanes, and his house is a $9.5 million built house out in Fayette County. And so, prosperity gospel is the thing that teaches that God wants believers to be wealthy. And
Some of them.
The only way to do
Yeah,
that is
some
to
of them.
give to the church.
Yeah.
You can't be wealthy if you don't give to the church.
Uh-huh.
And then they feed into the fear narrative.
Yeah.
Evangelical support for morally compromised political leaders, that just stems from fear. Fear of cultural change, fear of religious freedom, fear of the inability to keep bilking your followers out of
Right.
millions and millions of dollars.
Fear of losing your gravy train.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And fear of being excommunicated if you're one of the people at the bottom.
See, that's the thing.
By.
The Catholic Church hasn't excommunicated anybody in a long time. I honestly wish the Catholic Church would go back to excommunicating people.
Mm.
Bibi goes to invade Iran. I mean, I wish the Catholic Church could say, I'm excommunicating Bibi Netanyahu. You know what happened to Charlemagne, right?
Charlemagne?
Yeah, Charlemagne went to invade Rome, and the Pope at the time, who I believe was Pope Christus II, or maybe the third, but anyway, he excommunicated Charlemagne, deemed he was the Antichrist, and then called all Christians to kill him. And then
nice move.
Yeah, and then Charlemagne was like, "Okay, you're serious? Go."
It's my bad.
Yeah, he leaves. Years later, he comes back. The Pope then, who was not Pope Christus, I think it might have been my favorite Pope, Pope Hilarious. Yes, there was a Pope named Hilarious. Google this shit. I'm not kidding. Believe me, I know. I wrote a paper about it in school. Excommunicated Charlemagne again, deemed he was the Antichrist, and commanded all Christians to kill him. And Charlemagne was like, "I don't give a shit this time." And then I think that's how Charlemagne ended up in a barrel.
Funnily enough.
And was taken care of. But I would love for the Catholic Church to go back to excommunicating people.
That's a good idea.
Except
that it doesn't count if you're not one anyway.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's, so the tension between sexual morality biblically and contemporary political support, it reveals a viciously huge crisis of theological integrity that happens on both sides of a very large divide. I mean, if you're a biblical witness, you understand that committing adultery and graping and lying are bad things and you're not supposed to do them. So those moral categories admit no political exception, no pragmatic justification, and no utilitarian calculation. It's just not allowed. I mean, if you're a believer in a biblical God, God demands integrity, justice, and righteousness from its leaders. As a Druid female, I worship the Mother of the Earth, and the Mother of the Earth wants me to heal everybody and take care of the Earth and protect the Earth so that all of the life on the Earth, including the people that live there, can live in happiness. That is way less dogmatic than a biblical God that retributionally decides to kill people at random times or demand that those followers be righteous in their causes.
The first is Old Testament.
Right.
Yeah. The New Testament does away with that.
Well, yes and no. Yes and no. I come not to abolish the law, but enforce it. Jesus said
living.
that more than once. Yeah, Jesus said that more than once.
Yeah, well, he lived in Roman times and they were occupied, so
Right,
right?
right.
But
So that whenever a Christian person or whatever finds out that I'm a druid and they call me a devil worshiper, I just look at them and I'm like, that judgment is it's a little bit of you shouldn't judge people so much. I'm pretty
And
sure.
why are you saying I worship a character I don't believe in?
nice one.
I mean, do you know he's real? Prove it. And they go, oh, this book says it. No,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
prove it outside of the book
Yeah.
that says it. You can't.
No.
Whenever I challenge a Christian to prove the iterative of their dogma and the iterative of their belief, and I challenge them to do it outside of the fucking book, they can't do it because evangelical Christians do not understand that faith is blind and it's on purpose.
Yes.
Faith is completely blind. Do I really believe that there is a embodied spirit of the earth? I can't prove that. It's a belief that I have.
Yeah.
It causes me to act a certain way.
Right.
But I'm not in my interest to convince other people that they should.
Right.
Yeah, they should
Yeah.
believe it also. That's my.
You aren't trying to enforce your belief
Yes.
on others.
No, I'm not.
No.
No.
It's your integrity that's what works for you.
Yes, exactly.
And it
Yeah.
works if other people do it as well. It all works. It doesn't matter what you call it. You're looking after the divine and you're looking after what the divine has given.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
It's the same thing in all of the benign, loving religions, whatever you want to, entities, whatever you want to call them, is look after people and look after the earth. It doesn't make any sense to not, because you're depriving people of the gifts of the creator, whoever that is, if you're not looking after the earth to look after the people.
Yes, exactly. There's a reason I love making this reference, but there's a reason that in fantasy tabletop game playing spaces, we'll say Dungeons and Dragons in particular, they have an entire pantheon of gods, and one of those gods is Saint Cuthbert. And so, like when I found out about that, I was like, wow, that's just like God. What does Saint Cuthbert do? And like DMs will tell you, oh, that's the god of retribution, and there's a reason for that. Because the Christian God is all about retribution. Oh, that totally makes sense. Um, but here's an even more hilarious sort of not hilarious, but interesting prospect. Um, Early Judaica, so stuff that happened before the biblical text, before the Tanakh, and then even literally laterally to the Tanakh's existence. There are Judaic traditions that are entirely shamanistic.
Right.
Like early Judaic mythology, they believed in golems. Like a clay golem was an animatable spirit that would protect them.
Which is idolatry.
Yeah, right.
Sorry about it.
Wow. That's bad.
Uh-huh. Thou shalt have none other gods but me. Which is Old Testament, by the way.
I mean, you know why God created Gentiles, right? Somebody has to pay retail.
Somebody has to be what?
I know. I'm horrible.
I didn't hear it.
Oh, somebody has to pay retail.
Quite.
Oh. So yeah, I mean, And so right now, like before we started the live, I was up to about 25 or 27 or 26 DMs. I now have 50.
Oh, you're the tool of the
And
devil stuff?
yeah, and so I guarantee you a good half
Yeah, here
of
there's gonna be some unfriendly stuff there.
yeah. Oh no, so when I did the one that I did before that, the Christian fascist Republicans, Jesus was just a guy, get it through your heads, you dickheads. That
Yeah, that
one
was funny.
I said that one, I had like almost 100, and I guarantee you over 70 of them were people that were like, "You're reading a book that God is specifically confusing you and your interpretation for." And I was like, "Really?"
Hmm.
And then like there were a bunch of people that were like, "You're trans. There's no way that that translation is right because if you're a trans woman, that means that you're the devil and you're using the Bible against Christians or whatever." I was like, "Really?"
That's
You
typical.
trans to the Bible.
I trans the Bible. Um,
So
so
sick
yeah,
of that narrative. So sick
yeah,
of it.
there's the people that that narrative drives me crazy. It really does.
Yeah, that so the like there's one verse that they use for that whole God confuses unbelievers when they try to read the Bible or whatever, but um that's such a terrible idea of God to have is this like divine riddler.
Yeah.
And why would you want your God to be like that?
Because you've created that God in your own image, and that's who
Yeah.
you are. It's called projection. It's pretty bad, isn't it? Is it? You feel sorry for them because they're deluded.
Um, you're talking about. I actually had to look at my Tanakh. You're actually talking about Second Thessalonians, right?
Sure.
Therefore, God sends them a strong delusion so that they may believe what is false, that all may be condemned who did not believe the truth, but have
Oh no,
pleasure in
you froze.
righteousness. Yeah, that's Christians. That's the verse that Christians use to say God's confusing you on purpose.
I was not aware of that one.
Yeah,
I'm sure I've
uh,
read it, but I didn't
you
apply
know,
it to this.
Well,
Wow.
you didn't understand it when you read it because God confused you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Nice catchphrase.
you
Very
know,
convenient. Very
I
convenient.
I have a real funny thing about that. My old landlord at the house I was renting like 2 years ago was a progressive but very stringent Hasidic Jewish person. And she called me one day, and I had my Tanakh in my hands, and I was flipping through it. Oh, because back then I went through Twitter wars with people all the time when Twitter was actually safe. Not that it's safe, but anyway. And so I was talking on the phone with her, and I was flipping pages, and she asked me, she says, "What are you doing?" And I went, "Oh, kivet yet ikam yet Shabbat." And she's like, "You know how to speak Hebrew?" And I, yes. And she said, "How?" And I explained to her why, and she was like, "Wow, are you Jewish?" No. And so then I had that conversation with her, and she was like, "Wendy, no matter what happens, like if you don't live in my house, I'm never losing your number because you are honestly one of the coolest non-Jewish people I've ever met in my life." And then she and I had a conversation in Hebrew. Like we went back and forth. Like I knew she was testing me or whatever, but we were going back and forth. And finally, like after 5 minutes, she's like, "I thought you were kidding. I now realize you're not kidding."
Yeah. Yeah, you know more than just a couple of phrases.
And
Right.
and
Not
so
window dressing.
Yeah.
right. And well, here was the thing. Here was why. Um, um, I called her on Shabbat, and I didn't realize that I had called her on Shabbat. And for a Hasidic Jewish person,
Yeah.
they'll never answer. I mean, they don't. They walk to church. They are synagogue. Um, no technology. There's a
Yeah.
whole pantheon for that or whatever.
Yeah.
And so, and it was an emergency too. That was what was bad. And so, because there was something wrong with the house. And so when she called me back, I said, there was a problem. I took care of the problem, and I apologize for calling you on Shabbat, and I'm sorry. And she was like, okay. I haven't ever had a person tell me that before. Oh, I realized that I'm observant of your faith system, and I respect it. And so,
Yeah.
she was always really cool about it. But then when she found out that I spoke Hebrew, here was what's funny. One day she brought her mom to the house, and then her mom started talking to me, and I went at it with her, you know, verse the Shabbat, the Servat, and uh, her mom was like, and then she looks at her mom and she says, Habanat Cheyevats Kiyevitz Kibitz, which is basically Hebrew for where did she learn Hebrew? And before my landlord could answer, I answered her, and she was like, I remember walking out. I'm never coming here with you ever again because I can't speak to you in our native language where the person in the room doesn't understand what I'm saying. So I can't say bad things or whatever. And I was like, okay, well, sure.
Whatever. How inconvenient for you.
Right. Yeah. How inconvenient that a multilingual person can understand a, an interesting subset of languages. Um, so anyway, I just wanted everyone to know I've been writing so much biblical work. I'm just going to tell you that one live of the week is probably going to be a religious trauma. Miranda. I'm probably going to do religious trauma lives now. So you need to try to join those if you can.
Yeah.
Because you have to have just as much religious fucked up trauma as I do.
Oh, I have plenty.
Julia, do you have any religious trauma?
I have plenty from the past, and it's continuing. Meaning, there's still a lot of people in my life who believe those kinds of things and try to use them against me.
Yeah, because they're trying to bring you back. Okay.
But bring you back under their terms, not yours.
Yes, right.
Right.
It's not anything biblical about it. There's nothing Christian about it. They want to break you and create you in their own image.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So that
So
makes me
I'm
so
happy.
angry.
I'm completely happy to help people deconstruct religion. So do you have religious trauma, Julia? Can I ask?
Yeah, not anything on the level of
Okay.
what you two deal with daily, continuously. But yeah, it's like, I don't care if you tell the truth. I don't care if what you say is real. You're not to go out there and tell anybody else about this because I'm the guy, I'm the head, and I get to tell the story. And we don't want this getting out. It wouldn't be good.
Right. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
exactly.
Excuse me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, right, I get it. I'm the fallen woman because I'm not married to my partner, but he's screwing one of your, oh, wait, parishioners whose parents support the church a lot, and she's married. So
Mm-hmm.
screw
That is.
her husband and screw me because for whatever reason, we didn't pay enough. I'm the fallen woman, etc., etc. It's like, oh, for fuck's sake. This is total bullshit. Luckily, I had my own little subgroup. But yeah,
Sure.
it was of very few people who did know the truth, and which is important that somebody else know what's going on. If everybody else doesn't, that's okay, as long as a couple of people support you and know. They may not be able to do anything.
Right.
Because if you don't, it depends who has the power. Well, my friends and I didn't have the power.
Right.
Right.
But
Yeah. I mean, you're not wrong about that. So I just want to
yeah,
tell everybody that's
yeah.
listening, if you have religious trauma and you're on the religious trauma live, I'll try to do them on Saturday afternoons.
Uh,
Um, then you can come on and you can talk about your religious trauma, and like a good druid woman, I will help you work through it. Because if you don't, then Miranda and I are just going to talk about our religious trauma, and that's not going to.
which is important. How do you two feel about sharing that with the group? Is it helpful?
I here's the thing. I had a conversation with a reader last night, and I I told this reader, yeah, Julie, free therapy. Um, if you want extensive sessions, Julie, I sell those, and we can have a one-on-one Zoom call, and we can talk about whatever the fuck you want. But um, uh, uh, oh, tech load, I'll post it. But we were here. Let me bring up the conversation so that I can adequately talk about this. Uh, from a trauma perspective, it's important. Um, so the question was, um, uh, we this person and I were talking about laws, and this person tells me I have a fear of excavation, and so I said, why? Because of what you will find? And the person says yes, and I said, what's the worst thing that you feel like you could uncover? And this person's reply was memories. And I said,
Yeah.
here's the issue with that. Um, I'm going to tell a story. It's a very painful story. I have refrained from publishing this story for a very obvious reason. But I shared this story with this person and they were moved by it. So that means I feel like I feel like I need to stop not sharing this story um, because it involves severe trauma. Uh, so when I was very young, um, the, if you've read my biography, you understand that Zoe, my mother, was a very bad person. And there was a time in my life. So Miranda, this is the book burning story.
Okay.
Yeah. So Miranda's heard this story. So, um, seated in the home that I grew up in, I was reading a book. And my mother walked into the room. This was a book that was given to me by Helen, who really was my mother, even though she was my uh, uh, maternal grandmother. And I loved the book. And the book was worn. I mean, like the the binding was bent. It'd been bent back. Ever all the pages had been creased. And so she she saw that I had the book, and I was completely unaware that she was standing there. And I was enthralled by what I was reading. I read a lot, and I feel very emotionally about the things that I read. And so she snatched the book out of my hand, and you're reading this, and it's making you smile. I don't like that.
Yes.
And I was sort of horrified. And so she walked out of my room and she walked down into the main hall of the house. And there was a big table there with a brazier at the end of it. And I followed her out there and she took the book and she put it into the brazier, sprayed kerosene all over it, and then lit it on fire. And I stood there and I thought for a minute. I can reach into the brazier, pull the book out, and put the fire out, and I can salvage it. By now, the flames have crusted the top, and it's starting to bend the book up. There's a scar on this hand from where I took that third-degree burn at the age of 9. So I reached to grab it, which burned viscerally hot onto my hand. I didn't care. And I felt a stinging at the back of my knees, a riding crop. And I still trudged my hand forward. And then I got it to the back of the knees again. Now my knees are starting to buckle. And I'm bleeding at the left knee. And so then she did it again. Until I pulled my hand away. And by that time, the book was in ash. It was never going to survive. And then it just turned into a black pile of dust. I have a copy of that book on a shelf in my home. I won't touch it. I refuse to touch it. And I won't touch it because I think if I do, it'll disappear. Now, I have an eidetic trigger, and that's the smell of burnt meat, which immediately triggers that memory. If you burn meat in my house, I'm probably going to be crying a lot quickly. And so I shared this story, and I said to this person, why are you afraid of these memories? If I am not afraid to tell you this memory, this very viscerally painful memory, and talk about that specific element of my trauma, you know, why are you afraid of them? And they don't. That's trauma. It doesn't make you less. If I tell you this, do I feel less because I told you? No, because that's a visceral experience that I experienced. And if you hear it and you learn from it, or it provides some relativism for you personally, then there's no reason why I shouldn't share that experience. I wrote 675,000 words 10 years ago. And it wasn't until that one told me I needed to publish it that I started to think about it. There's stories in those pages I will never. It's too much. It's worse than even the book burning story. But I impart these to the people that I think need to hear them so that people can deal with the trauma that they have. So when I talk about my trauma, do I feel like that's something I can't share with people? No. No, not at all. Because if you can learn from if my trauma teaches you something, then it was worth it. And of course, the person who I was talking to about this literally told me, I don't want to take something from you when it feels like you should keep it for yourself. And I'm like, why would I do that? Oh, what are you going to take? And the person tells me, time, energy, and love. And I literally tell this person, you can't. Um, I lived in a world for years devoid of love and fairly constant pain and suffering. If I chose to give something to someone, if I chose to give to someone who needed it, um, and I would give it freely, then are you really taking it from me to begin with? Because why would you? I would just give that to you because you would need it. You know, and so, this person went on this bit trying to tell me that you give these things to people, you give these emotions to people, and what right is it for people to take those? And I'm like, because I give it to you, that's why. If you can learn from those experiences, then you should.
But one thing that trauma does to people is it makes us feel like we don't deserve those gifts.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a good point.
Yeah, which was a point I raised to another person in another conversation where I literally said, I don't have expectations for the things that I give people. As a druid, when I heal somebody because I see that they're in pain.
Yeah.
I see that they are not well. I see that they need something.
Yeah.
And as a druid, I don't have expectations for what happens after that. The mother does not encourage um, 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 does not the mother does not encourage me to not do that. And so um, no,
It's unconditional.
yeah, right. And so
Right.
the person says, okay, you don't have expectations, but maybe you have desires, and this is where I will tell people, and Miranda's going to make a face when I do this. Um, do you have desires? And I said, honestly, only if I were lucky, and I don't deserve them anyway. Because I don't. There's an entire group of people who have all been trying to convince me that I deserve those things returned, and I'll never believe it.
Well, we're going to keep trying anyway.
I was going to say, that's our gift to you. What you do with it is your responsibility.
Yeah,
But
I
we
know.
believe it. We believe it.
Yes. Okay. So,
Yeah.
Julia, thank
Yes. No.
you. No, really, thank you. That's very hard for me to say to people. I tell people, don't tell me thank you. There's no reason to. And so when people say thank you, I'm like, no, you don't need to tell me thank you. I would do it anyway. And they're like, no, but I want to. I'm like, okay. So I got like 5 people that when people say, thank you, Wendy, I get like 5 messages of people telling me, you better say you're welcome right now.
Or at the very least, don't argue with the thank you.
Right.
But to answer your question, no, I am certainly freely open to talk about my trauma, whatever the fuck that is. Whatever that is.
Oh, Craig's finally here.
Okay, everybody stop talking about craters.
I was going to say, it's very generous of you both to share your experiences. People don't feel that they're alone when they hear your story. And that's the whole point of community.
Yes, exactly. Yes, I agree.
And that's what we're supposed to be doing.
Yes.
Is helping each other, uplifting each other. When you're up, I'm down. If if there's something I can do to make you feel better or less alone or whatever that is, I freely give that. And encouragement is so important. Whether you believe it or not, I have a hard time believing it myself when someone says it to me. But saying it to other people is important to who I am. So there you are.
Yes. Okay. Do either of you have anything else?
This was wonderful. This was wonderful. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Miranda, thank you as always.
Yeah.
It was lovely to see you in person.
I tell her that all the time. She has way prettier hair than I do.
Comparisons are odious.
That's probably true.
That's another thing I try to tell Wendy, that she doesn't have to put herself down to
Yeah,
compliment
right.
me.
No, I could just
That's
compliment you and then not say
that's
anything.
an important distinction.
Yeah, I agree completely. I agree completely. All right. Well, I thank you both.
Welcome.
Yep. Coming down. Thank you, Miranda.
Yeah.
Wow. Afternoon session. Boy, that's really hard. So yeah, just I'm gonna go in my room now and burst into tears and cry a bunch. Um, so with that, I will tell everyone thank you. If you're here new, please subscribe. We're just all a big giant family here. We do things together. No, Craig, I don't think I'm going to go again tonight. Sunday is always, kind of hit or miss. I mean, sorry, Saturday is kind of ad hoc. So if I don't do a live tonight, then I'll see you guys on Sunday at 7:45. And so with that, I will tell you, I love you all. Please stay safe out there. Please do what you need to do to take care of yourselves. Do something fun. Um, don't focus on your trauma. And no matter what your trauma is, it gets better. I mean, it got better for me. It'll get better for you too. So I love you and stay safe out there.